All right, welcome everyone. We're going to give people a minute or so to filter in, and then we'll go ahead and get things kicked off.
We already see a ton of people join, so that's awesome.
Yeah, this is awesome. So while we are giving it about another 30 seconds or so, if you have any questions that you know you have ahead of time, feel free to put them in the chat. We are going to do our best to get through our content in 15 minutes as we promised, and then we will hang out for a bit to answer any questions that you all may have or that you all may put in the chat now. So feel free to go ahead and start popping those in there, and we'll get them into Q&A.
And then just to introduce ourselves, I'm Tom. I'm our Director of Technical Operations.
I'm Meredith. I'm the Director of Technical Services.
I'm Morgan. I'm the CEO of Hurricane Labs.
I'm Gavris. I'm a security operations engineer.
I'm Andrew. I'm a SOC architect.
Cool. I'm Sarah Ayala. I'm the SOAR engineer.
My name is Ryan Kazuski, and I'm a SOC analyst.
And I'm Stuart Bailey, and I'm another SOC analyst here.
All right. Thank you, everyone. So these are all of the wonderful panelists that you'll be working with today and hearing their experiences. We had a wonderful time back in early September in Boston, and we just want to cover some of the awesome things that we learned while we were at Conf, share some of our experiences, and then if you have any questions, we're more than happy to answer those. So I'm going to pass it right over to Sarah to hop right in.
So super exciting. Obviously, there's lots of games, lots of fun competitions, and we did win the automation games, which was so much fun. We learned a lot about new ESA and how it works with SOAR. We worked pretty closely with Splunk, which was really cool as well, too, working directly with someone who develops the software that I use every single day. And then, of course, it was difficult. So we did, we get it to stay humble and remember that there's always more to learn. Gavrish, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I was really looking forward to the automation games. That was one of the competitions that I was hoping we'd do really well in, and I'm really glad we did. We won first there. And to kind of echo that point it's cool that they were able to make a competition that, I was talking to the Splunk guys and like, I use SOAR every day and you guys still made it a challenge. So that was awesome. Like that was really cool to show up, and it was still challenging, and it was something that we got to showcase what we love to do, but we still had, you know, like they made the challenges really good for everyone there. So I loved that. That was really cool. And then let's talk about bots too, actually, while we go at it. So we also played bots, and we didn't do too bad in bots. We placed 8th, so top 10 out of 108 teams, which is pretty good. I'll take that. You see our team there, myself, Drew, Ryan, and Stuart. And one of the things I could talk about us as a team is that we're all pretty competitive and we also love challenges. So, that made bots pretty enjoyable for us. And, me, I got to do all the SOAR stuff, which I loved. And they dived a bit into that LLM and AI stuff as well, which is also in my wheelhouse and was related to some of the stuff that I get to do now as well. So that was pretty cool. But now I want to pass on to the team as well, kind of show their experience or talk a little bit about what stood out to them. So, Drew, what about you? What stood out to you?
So every year Splunk likes to change it up and throw in a couple curveballs. This year, one of the big ones was the Splunk engineering section. Considering I'm a SOC architect and I don't really deal with the back end side of Splunk that much, being assigned to that section was kind of tricky for me. The section was a lot about building data models out, optimizing searches, and creating source types. I was pretty happy being able to figure 70 or 80% of that section out, since I usually rely on our Splunk team to handle that stuff. But now I'll pass you guys over to a couple of our analysts, Ryan and Stuart.
Thank you, Andrew. Bots is very similar to my everyday activities as an analyst. It might sound crazy, but I do enjoy these kinds of competitions, even if it is like doing my job. Just like day-to-day alerts, we're on a time crunch and had to make quick decisions on what questions to spend the most time on. I really enjoyed the section related to an insider threat within the company Slack. We determined that the threat was exfiltrating new unreleased data to a competing company. I love being able to connect the dots in my head between the user logs and determining the end threat and company impact. Overall, I had lots of fun, and now I'll throw it over to my fellow analyst Stuart for his thoughts.
So bots was my first experience with a capture the flag exercise. And Splunk definitely did not disappoint this year at Conf with a lot of different scenarios for us to work through. It was a great experience, even though some of the scenarios were a lot exaggerated because it's bots, but the same foundational skills that we see and use every day in the SOC were the same. Going back to the logs, sifting through them to find out what's relevant, and then pivoting to other sources to try to get a complete picture and hopefully find the answer. I definitely think that the skills that helped us in bots, especially Ryan and I, are the same ones that we bring to our work every day. And now I'm going to pass you back to Drew for some info that Splunk announced this year at Conf.
So during the keynote, one of their big announcements was the release of Enterprise Security 8.2. With ES 8.2, there's now 2 different editions, an Essentials and a Premier Edition. Essentials is currently available, and it's the typical security and threat intelligence management that you're used to. The Premier Edition is in early access, but it brings together your ES, your threat intelligence management, UEBA, and Splunk SOAR all together in like one packaged thing. Both of the editions now include a new Splunk Assistant or Splunk AI Assistant, with some of the notable features there being there's a new AI enhanced detection library, a new personalized detection SPL generator, a triage agent, and a malware reversal agent. They didn't really show a lot about how these are going to work or how they be set up, any nitty gritty details on any of that. So I'm excited to see what happens when those actually are showcased better. But now I'll pass it back to Ryan to talk about what the future holds.
Thank you, Andrew. What does the future hold? Conf 2025 was all about forward-looking statements, and we'd like to highlight a couple key points we heard about throughout our time at the conference. Starting us off, there was a lot of talk about wanting to bring Splunk directly to your data. No, really, Tom, how does that work? And is it just a search head on an S3 bucket?
So not quite. Federated search is where instead of having data sitting on an indexer like normally in Splunk, where it reaches out and searches that index data that exists, it actually reaches out to a different data source. S3 being like a bucket in Amazon where it can pull that data down. Alternatively, they're also talking about Snowflake being a new option that's going to be available in the future. We'll cover that shortly. Back to you, Ryan.
Thank you. That was a wonderful explanation, Tom. Secondly, I think it comes to no one's surprise that Splunk has consulted their crystal ball of forward-thinking statements and has determined that AI is in the works. I'd like to kick this section over to Sarah and Jonathan to talk about what Splunk has in store for us in the ever-evolving world of AI.
Thank you, Ryan. One of the coolest demos that we saw was a nice live demo, which I know is always really scary for them, but it played out really well. There was an alert that came in. They went over to the investigation, went to an automations tab, and then next up there's the intelligence. And it was basically almost like a SOAR background with almost like a version of GPT that will give you prompts to look for, that'll promote dashboards for you, make comparative comparisons against the last 30 days. It's really, really cool stuff, looks really useful, really helpful. One kind of joke that we made too was like, well, what do we do now if AI is doing this? And I just wanted to say too, I think all of this is really helpful for what we're doing, but I just don't think in any way it's replacing people. Tech always needs people to fix things, always needs integrations to be troubleshooted. There's always things for people to do. I think this is just something that actually helps us and makes our lives a little bit easier. Gavrish, would you like to
Yeah,
add?
one of the things that stood out to me when I was talking to the Splunk team on the floor there, they mentioned that they're going to be using AI or an LLM or whatever the solution is to start building playbooks or generating playbooks too, and that's pretty cool. I thought that was a neat use case for that, and kind of echoing Sarah's thoughts there. It's like, well, then as a SOAR engineer, what am I going to do? But we're always going to be there to have to troubleshoot what's generated or even set up the connectors between SOAR and your apps and everything else. So it's going to be a cool tool to see it generating, if it could help me with half my job or a quarter of it, whatever, to save time. I feel like that'll be a really cool use case for that. So I'm excited to see that solution when that comes out too.
Thank
Back to
you,
Ryan.
Sarah and Jonathan. Thank you. for that sneak peek into AI at Splunk coming in a future near you. And last but not least, the future has free logs in the forecast, according to Splunk. And to give us more insight into Splunk's definition of free logs, I'd like to give the floor to Morgan.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, obviously, as everything goes, there is an asterisk on that. Next slide. Yeah, so this was one of the spicier things that was announced at Conf, since about 25%, is that right, Tom, of network logs probably come from firewalls?
It's a big data source, yeah.
Yeah, big data source for a lot of our clients. So Cisco's announcement definitely caught some attention within our clientele. So starting actually in August, so a little bit retroactively, the ingestion of Cisco secure firewalls into Splunk is free, but free up to 5 gigabytes a day. So as long as you have both the firewall threat defense subscription and your Splunk license, it's a good incentive to compete with what Microsoft's doing. Not quite yet the game changer that marketing sometimes can make it out to be, but we do find this to be actually something that will significantly impact all of our clients. And it's one more way that Cisco and Splunk are leveraging their partnership to just sweeten the deal and keep firewall data flowing into Splunk. So overall, a really good announcement and could positively impact people.
And I know flowing data into Splunk, but the next thing we're going to talk about is actually keeping data not into Splunk and federated search. So Snowflake was one of the sources for federated search that they talked about. This is something that's a little bit more on the horizon for mid next year. But the idea here is that this is going to work a lot like federated search for S3, where you don't have to bring that data into Splunk. You can actually reach out to a third-party data source and search directly against it. So more to see on that. But for those of you that are using Snowflake in your environment, this is something to keep an eye on. Also, there are a lot of other things that happened at Conf. We talked a lot. So there were 4 or 5 different sessions that we all had. Meredith and we did a workshop, which was a lot of fun to use Splunk as a red teaming tool, but also as a tool to validate detections. And you can, since that was your idea, we can talk a little bit about that. Or you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, just leveraging your deployment server to either turn it into a command and control server, or if you want to talk about it the nice and slightly more professional way to have business use case, using it for use case validation, along with Atomic Red Team. And it was a really cool talk, and I think we had a fun time with 150 of our closest new friends, troubleshooting some live issues and learning some fun new things along the way.
Yeah, we had some great help from everyone else in this webinar being the hands-on help for that. So we couldn't have done it without them. But it was awesome. Like everyone stayed the whole time. The workshop went great and would do it again. So that was great to see. I also got to do episode 7 of my Administrators Anonymous talk, which covers things that I learn over the course of the year in our actual customer environments. So that was awesome to see a full room for that, as well as a small breakout session, and not a breakout session, but a pavilion session on that as well. Also did the global broadcast, which you can see in the slide of recording that. That is the online version of COP, and I got the chance to represent the Splunk community and break out the fez, for that. So that was fun. And then also fun, we got to do the Splunk Cyber Games in Boston, which is utter chaos, but...
Yeah, so that is Amazing Race meets Survivor meets cybersecurity themed challenges. It was a lot of fun. It was a very, very, very early morning video shoot with a full camera production, which mentally I was not prepared for. But there were some really fun challenges in there. It's about a 12 to 15 minute feature length mini video. You'll see me drink some paint water. It's a really good watch.
If you want to watch me throw balls at MITRE Framework and run around a park in Boston, you can watch that.
Yeah, there will be a blog post that comes out after this that we will have the link to everyone who has the time to have that in the background. It will bring some joy to your day. I can pretty much guarantee that.
That is for sure. Also, future joy.
Yeah, if you know Hurricane Labs, you know that we love Splunk. So we are excited, hopefully, to be at Conf again next year. One of the big announcements is that Conf is going to continue on. So we are pumped about that. Next year, next September, we will be taking our talents to the mountains in Denver. So we hope to still see a lot of you guys there, and we hope to still have a lot of speaking opportunities as we are Splunk's top fanboys.
And if you are also a Splunk top fanboy, or you want to become one, there's a lot more you can learn. So Splunk has the global broadcast, which includes the keynotes and some of the product announcements. You'll also notice there is a little bit of a slide here that is actually the talk that I did. So that is available for future viewing as well. And there also is the Conf Online section now. So a lot of the breakout sessions were recorded, and you can go to conf.splunk.com and watch a lot of those sessions. So if you missed something or weren't able to make it out to Conf, you'll still be able to get some of the knowledge that was shared. And with that said, we thank you all for your time on the webinar. We're going to stick around here in case any questions come in, so just feel free to throw those into either the Q&A or the chat. But for everyone else, thank you for attending, and we promise to keep this under 15 minutes, and we are keeping to that goal. So thank you all for your time, and we will see you all again soon on another Hurricane Labs webinar.
So that being said, we do have one question in the chat that we can toss around to the different people here. And that question is, what is one talk, event, product, or experience from Conf that you wish other security professionals who work with Splunk products could have experienced? And I'll start it and we can just kind of pass it around. For me, that was the newer versions of Splunk SOAR. I haven't had the chance to work in newer versions of Splunk SOAR during the automation games. I got to see how nice it is now. I started with it when it was Phantom, and yeah, it's so much better now. So,
I can actually echo what you said too for not exactly the same, but for SOAR as well. So you had like the team that actually was doing the automation games. I just showed up because I wanted to see that and did it on my own. And I learned a bunch of new things about how to build playbooks in SOAR while doing that, and just like watching the demo of like, here's how to do that. And it's like, oh, I didn't know you could use this part of the UI to build a playbook. So I basically like just knocked out a couple playbooks, then had to go run and give a talk. But it was definitely something I learned in the short bit of time that I was there.
when he's
I-
not,
I think you won top 10 too, if I remember. Like your final score was in the top 10, which is awesome.
Even leaving early, but that's Tom. If you know, it's competitive.
Yeah, I mean,
Anyway.
yeah, something like that. I guess that's the power of automation, right? You just set it in.
Well, you let it go. Yeah, you had it automatically and it kept scoring points. So that's pretty cool.
So that was fun.
but I'll pass it over to Foster.
I think obviously both of the competitions were really fun. I also thought one of the SOAR talks, I think it might have been the only SOAR talk I attended. It was really nice to see like just kind of get like a glimpse into the features that are coming. Because they're really and the AI dashboard, honestly. Like, and I did see Dan kind of mention that as well. The AI dashboard, and I think they slipped in some new like dashboard features and stuff that I'm kind of excited to see how they work out. But the number one thing I think is just bots and automation games are really fun to kind of like test yourself and see how you really check your knowledge against other people in the field. I'll pass that over to Gavris.
I mean, I'm going to just echo the same thing because I'll be honest, I feel like you learn more and by doing things. Being at talks, so it's kind of split twofold, I guess. That same SOAR talk you mentioned was one where it's like, it's nice being inspired by the guys from Splunk being like, all right, we were doing this to solve this problem. It's like, oh, okay. That's something I didn't think about. Or I went to another SOAR talk where someone was giving examples of things they were doing in the field. And it's like, okay, I had like a similar idea to solve that problem. So it's kind of, you get some validation and some inspiration depending. So to answer the actual question is, what talk should you go to? Is whatever. The Splunk does a good job of categorizing the talks that they offer. So attending talks in the wheelhouse of the things that you do is important. But yeah, the games are just great. Like it's just a really good way to get comfortable with different parts of Splunk, especially bots, because like Drew mentioned earlier in his talk, he doesn't do a lot of back end Splunk stuff, but he had to figure some of that stuff out on the fly and he learned something, right? That's a really cool way of learning something new in a competition sense. And it's all for fun, right? So that's also my answer.
Building on kind of what you said there, I think one of the takeaways for me was that the energy of people around the Splunk community continues to stay as strong as ever. So it was really exciting to see that community come together. And it's always about the people for me. So getting there and seeing, the new ES8 rolling out into the ES Premier package, just constantly coming up with ways that can make clients' experience better and continuing to drive Splunk forward, and seeing Cisco really take an investment in that is something that we love to see at Hurricane Labs.
And I just love seeing like how people interact with us at Conf,
Yeah.
where like it's easy to just kind of get discouraged when you're just staring at a computer all the time. But when you actually are around people and they're like, oh, you're with Hurricane Labs, use all your stuff, for reference, and you guys do a great job at, all whatever they're bringing up. So it's like that is just awesome to hear. And it's so much real to hear it in person as opposed to just like existing in, an online world that we have otherwise.
Yeah, putting a face and name with our Splunk connections, with our clients, and with more people just in the Splunk community that are excited and passionate about Splunk as we are.
If I can yes and that real fast, that was probably one of my favorite things too. Just the amount of times I'd go somewhere, someone would see my name tag and say, "Oh, Hurricane Labs, like I know you guys. You guys have all the answers to my questions." And it's just, I know I work with amazing, intelligent people, and I know I work with amazing engineers. But it's really nice to just kind of be known for that and have people know that we're a nice, reputable source for development. Um, when I went to the developer station, which is probably one of my other favorite parts of the whole thing, just being able to talk to a lot of experts about niche things. That was another example. As soon as I walked in, they're like, "Oh, Hurricane Labs. Yep, we know you. Tim and Ian, they're contributing like every day." It's really nice to be known for the good work that we're doing too.
And it's awesome to see Cameron on a sign there as one of the people that's a developer. And just seeing one of our coworkers actually as part of the display. And also, like, speaking of conversation, we had these backpacks that have some entertaining things on them. This was a really cool idea that Gavris had.
Nice conversation starter. Yeah,
Yeah.
Everest is using it with his bike on the highway and getting people's attention. Figured what better way to get to meet people at a conference than really cool backpacks. Thank you, Gavris.
Yeah, definitely a conversation starter. That was awesome.
So one of the things
And
that I really am excited about the ES8 and the new Canvas AI, definitely for the dashboard creation where you can type in a question regarding an investigation that you or your security team is working on, and have it develop a small dashboard showing outlying events. And then also being able to have the integration where you can share that across your security team so that different people with different specialties can pick up where you leave off, and carry that investigation forward. That is really an exciting use of AI, I think. And definitely, if you guys can go watch the Administrators Anonymous, I work in the SOC side of things, so I don't really see the whole Splunk admin side as much. But it was very, very interesting and informative to see, how Tom worked through a lot of different issues that come up in different Splunk environments.
And I would say,
yeah, I was good. Oh, you want to go, Tom?
no, well, I was just going to say I go ahead and like keep a running Google Doc of things that I run in over the year, and that's the content for that talk. So it's very much based on real life. Back to you, Ruby.
No, yeah, I was literally going to say the same stuff as Stuart, as the AI things that are coming that are really going to help, our day to day with alerts are probably the most interesting. Obviously, bots getting, real world experience at a competition directly from Splunk, seeing, things that they see on their end all the time that they then put into the competition. And by far, I would say, yeah, the Splunk Admins Anonymous was definitely my favorite talk. And not only the talk itself, but there's time afterwards where everyone's coming up to Tom and the team, asking questions. And it's just really cool to hear people bounce ideas off each other and figure out fixes to problems.
All right, we've got one more question in the chat, which Sarah, I know you did start to answer already, from Dan, and Dan asks, did Splunk show any examples of using the AI dashboard generator, or is that still far out enough that they didn't have that opportunity? And I know we saw an abridged demo during the first keynote, which I think was about an hour into the keynote, if I recall correctly.
I think about, yeah.
But in terms of a true video walkthrough of how it all works, how the different pieces fit together, I haven't seen something like that come out just yet.
I think a lot of it was like live-ish kind of demo where it was sort of pre-recorded for that, from what I could tell. And there were some more of that on the second day. But and Sarah, I know you were talking a little bit about what you saw, so I'll turn it over to you.
Sure. Yeah, I was kind of talked a little bit about it earlier, but it was really exciting. At least for me, I think I love live demos. I think they're so fun. Except when you're doing them right. But they went into mission control, and then when you open up an investigation, you can kind of tab over through the different options. There was another option that was specifically just for AI, and then when you went in there, it'll say, like, let's say it was an anonymous user, the sign in, something like that. I think it was along those lines, but then it would say over the last 30 days, this is where they normally, sign in from. Here's a map. Here's where people normally sign in from general. It kind of gave you a lot of prompts as well as the actual dashboard. So you could say, like, yes, I want to see that, or no, tune it this way. So it's kind of almost like exactly like a GPT trained model that was specifically trained on generating these. So it was pretty cool, I think, and it was really helpful. It's definitely something I think that's really good for in the moment. And specifically when you're trying to investigate an alert to see if it's actually an anomaly or if it's actually something that's, should be deemed suspicious. It's, yeah, very, very helpful for that kind of quick in the moment decisions.
Awesome. And that looks like that wraps up all the questions that we have. So thank you all for attending, and be on the lookout for future Hurricane Labs webinars, and we'll be happy to see everyone here. You all have a great day. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, y'all.
Adios. We.